All right, let's talk a little bit about real estate. We've talked about insurance. Yeah. I want to get a little bit into real estate. Most of my audience has been interested in real estate, either on the investing side or looking for buyers and sellers tips.
Yeah.
Right now, I know interest rates have been a colossal monster.
Yeah.
It's really affected the way a lot of people emotionally feel about buying. It may not help them objectively.
Yeah.
I know when the interest rates went up in the fall, people immediately thought, well, the interest rates are high and prices are high. There's no way I'm going to buy. The fallacy for them at the time is that they could actually negotiate on price of the home. And when you can negotiate on the price of the home, you don't have to give up as much upfront principal to win.
Yeah.
Which means you have less money that you have to refinance later. So that it actually works out better when you can negotiate. When you couldn't negotiate, even at 3%, you're going to refinance a number that you can never get out of that property because you already paid for it up front.
Yeah. Well, people of my generation remember buying houses and paying a lot, double digits. I mean, I've had an interest rate over double digits. So it's nice to have it at 3 or 4%, but it's not always going to be that way. And so I had a lot of my background in financial markets, working with retirement plans, but I didn't know as much about real estate. So I love that I'm in the insurance business now. It got me connected to real estate. And there's so much wealth to be built in real estate, and Texas in particular. When you look at the future of Texas, get to Texas fast and get busy, because there's going to be a lot more people. I drive around here, I can't believe all the things that have been created that I don't even know about. And, my wife, she's a CPA by training. And early on, she did some tax work at Tyson's Corner, Virginia, when we lived in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
She come home to dinner one night. I say, what did you see on the tax return? She says, all wealthy people own a lot of real estate. I'm like, okay, there you go. There's a nugget. They own apartment complexes. They own.
So how many houses do you own?
Just one big one.
You weren't taking any advice when she was sharing
No,
that.
I've looked at some things, and I think I'm going to help my kids getting out of college now, probably help them buy their first home earlier rather than later. Let somebody pay them some interest rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I think if you took even 5 of the top 10 wealthiest people, almost all of them were built in real estate in one shape or another. Yeah. I think that's incredibly valuable, because you talked about building something, and we can call it a legacy, multi-generational.
Legacy is good.
Because that's a big thing for me. I'm really firm on, proper masculinity, legacy, building something that is something that people can look up to and appreciate. Conviction, that's another thing we don't have in our society.
Yeah,
there's not much conviction about anything.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, don't offend, don't say, don't.
Yeah.
And there's no conviction, right?
Yeah.
So, but let's talk a little bit about building something long-term. So like in the insurance business, you can build a book of business that is transferable.
Yep.
Probably at your paycheck job, probably not very transferable. It's probably only as good as you were there.
At the end,
maybe the 401k, but outside of that,
that was nice. At the end,
I was the pension.
Well, I was a director, so I had a deferred compensation plan, which was
that's
great.
Good.
But at the end, I did walk away from a lot of stock options, which I was going to do eventually, because it's someday they're not all vested, and they're just giving you more. So it's kind of inverted. So I said, hey, I got plenty of good years left in me. Let's get started here and use my business acumen and skills and build something that I own. And I can build it as big as I want. I could go into commercial lines eventually. I could go into high net worth clients. I could go into other states. So there's a lot of opportunities.
So I took advantage of my real estate knowledge, and I did. I got into buying and holding. I actually got into flipping. I did about 100 flips.
You're a good person still.
And I got out of that.
Yeah.
I decided I will help facilitate and manage flips on behalf of others.
Yeah.
It's
a good way to get started for
people. The guy that just called me, he's my project manager, and he was out in Wichita Falls, and we're doing a couple of projects out there we're managing.
That's probably a good place to target.
Oh, it's incredibly valuable. The homes are unbelievably cheap.
I bet.
And the labor's fair.
Yeah.
It's not, outrageous.
They probably know what they're doing too.
Well, they care.
Yeah.
Like they're invested in their own area, their own community, and they're not trying to make it their one and last job. They want to have some today, and if you continue to give them work, they'll be fair.
My mom lived in New Mexico, so I drove through Wichita Falls many times.
So we, for whatever reason, my wife and I, we like to drive far enough where we can drive in the same day and stay overnight and then come back, a few days later.
Yeah, you kind of feel like you're away over there in Wichita Falls.
Yeah, it's not a different passport area, but, there's a little town, Henrietta. It's right before Wichita Falls. Mm-hmm. It's got a Best Western there. And we'll stay there for 3 or 4 days because it has a pool. It's a clean hotel, and it's like a newer hotel. It's not even, and it's right next to a really cool gas station that sells all kinds of fun stuff in the area. So
gotta wait for the kids.
And then we get to one of their top restaurants, which is probably 3 stars. So they've got 2 of them. We've been to both of them, the steakhouse and the seafood place. And then they have some chain stuff there too. But it's just they got nice parks, and it's just a drive, right?
Something different.
It's a few hours. It's easy. We're in Flower Mound, so getting up there is not a big deal. So that's why I like Wichita Falls. But I'm doing it for an investor. Nice. He gets these opportunities, and people will call me. This is a good example. So he calls me and is like, hey, do you have guys that can, flip this house up here? And I was like, I mean, I can solve it. Sure.
Yeah.
So I went out there and I used my network. I found some people, and the guy that's doing it is amazing. If I could bring him here, I would. And he wants to come here, but there's plenty of work up there. Yeah, you got plenty of work where you're at. So I just get it flipped for him, and then he got it done. And then now we're going to go do another one. Now he's going to do a 5-plex. Yeah. And then he's going to do a couple other small houses, but they are so unbelievably cheap.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you a question. What do you like looking for an investor? Are you still looking for people to become investors for some of the stuff? Not as much.
I do. No, I have different ways of doing it in programs. Obviously, if they came in with cash, that's fine. Yeah. I do have the ability to leverage my own line of credit. I've got probably about $2 million or so that I have available that I can use to facilitate things on their behalf. So if they have about $40,000 to $50,000 cash, I can take them basically from start to finish on a full flip, and they are completely hands off. Oh, that's a real critical thing for me. I'm not looking for their input, advice. It's for someone that everybody wants to flip houses. Tell me you've never thought about flipping a house.
I've thought about it. I have a lot of friends who've done it. I know a friend of mine is doing up in Tennessee right now.
There's something interesting about taking junk. Yeah. And then you've obviously renovated probably some of your own houses.
But I'm not very handy. So that's probably one of the reasons why I didn't naturally think about, like, if I were handy, or I had a best buddy or my brother who's pretty handy nearby, I think that's a more natural fit.
So for you say, well, I do like the idea of making money where everybody wins, right? Yeah. We helped someone get out of a house that was in a bad situation. Yeah. They didn't have the money to upgrade it. Yep. We do. We're going to upgrade it. We're going to put money into it. We're going to make the community better. We're going to sell it for a better price that's more equivalent to what the competition
helps the values of the other people.
And the other homes now naturally go up in value. Yep. And you've made something that looks terrible look beautiful, right? That's why there's 1,000 home improvement shows out there. People have a fascination of just seeing, something that's junk, and they make it look amazing. So
I've learned it's all about the buy. You got to get the right buy.
It does make a big difference, right? Well, that's the one thing you can control. Yeah. You can't really control what you're going to sell it for. Yeah. You can't really control the rehab totally. There's some things you're just going to have to suck up and deal with. And they're going to have to do it for something. So you got to pay something for it. You can't really control that. Yep. But the buy price is probably the number one item that you do control. So I take it from start to finish, totally hands off. I pick everything, I get everything set up, and I even stage it, and then I sell the property for them. That's kind of the full service business model. Yeah, it's a full turnkey operation.
Good. You mind sharing what's in it for them?
What's that?
What's their what do they look at in terms of their
return? Return, and they get to flip without knowing anything about flipping.
Yeah, neat.
Right, like it'd be perfect for you.
Okay, I'm interested.
So you're looking at it, and you say,
Wichita Falls.
I would like to make something better. I want to improve it. And I would provide the line of credit. I'll provide the contractors. I'll get it start to finish. And the only thing I want is you to be the owner. You are going to close on the loan, and then I will approve all the draws, and then you'll wire the money wherever we tell you to direct.
And the only real risk is how long it's on the market, I guess.
Well, the cost to hold it, right? Yeah. That's going to be your biggest, probably your biggest issue is going to be cost to hold. But I mean, Wichita Falls, we're talking homes are $50,000-$60,000. Yeah. And they're worth 90 to 100 when they're done, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a big market when it's 90,000. Right?
Yeah. So I in those cases, a lot of times we don't even need any type of line of credit. Yeah. We just pay cash, knock it out, and then we're in and out of these things in like 3 or 4 weeks.
That's great.
They're super easy.
And I can offer you builder's risk insurance as you're building them.
Yeah. So we definitely need insurance. Yeah. So you did a policy for me over a weekend. Yeah. Dan works all night, every night, 24/7.
No, that's when I need to.
No, I mean,
I am playing golf later today for the record, for 9 holes.
But you got your phone with you.
Yeah, I do.
So I tease Dan because I actually have the opposite. I don't work weekends or evenings.
I respect that.
Yeah, and I've generally, even in my business, real estate, right? I've managed to find a way to make myself available. Now, if I have emergencies, I'll take care of things.
Yeah.
But I've got a 2 and a 4-year-old and 8-year-old, and they, in the time with my wife is more important to me than any of the other things.
Well, that's your conviction. Can I bring up a conviction I have? Maybe a little controversy. Can this program handle that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it. What you got?
So, I got 3 college kids, so I get to hear what college kids are interested in. And, I think they're really interested in fairness and equity and all that. And I think that's redeeming. I really think it's important, and we can do better.
At a high level.
Yeah, at a high level. I think the thing they're really missing in this generation is the importance of liberty. And, it seems like Americans are more interested.
Because they grew up in freedom, so they don't appreciate what freedom really
we're
costs.
more interested in what their pets have than the people in the world. And so through a buddy of mine that was a Marine in Korea, he got me interested in Korea. And I'm kind of a little bit of a nerd on following North Korea. And I just feel like there's a whole people that are being horribly treated in the world, and nobody's talking about it. Mm-hmm. Like, why aren't the liberty-loving Americans doing more to help those people in North Korea?
If they're so focused on liberty, then let's apply some of that.
Well, I think equity and fairness is great, but without liberty, you don't have equity or fairness.
Right.
There's no equity and fairness in the Communist Party in North Korea unless you're in the Communist Party. So you got to start with
liberty. Still agree with everything they say.
Yeah, exactly. You got to start with liberty, and liberty is really the precursor for these other things that I think are. I think their generation is doing things better than my generation did, and they deserve some recognition. But I think they're kind of forgetting some of the groundings.
It's funny, if you said, bring me liberty or you would know how to end that. Right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't know what that means.
Exactly.
And there's nothing that really attaches yourself to something that you would give up everything to have.
Exactly.
And that's a tough thing as we have a easier society, it makes a less good quality future generation when you don't have the pressure and the things to make you better.
Exactly. So I think I'd love to see a little bit more conviction on liberty in our country.
As applied to other areas of the world, not just here.
Here and it applies to the world. I think that would put it a little bit more context, because we're a little focused on ourselves.
Well, we have a me generation. We have a me group. Yeah, it's funny you talk about pets. So I know, I don't think it's this generation or it may still touch them. You know that most are getting married much later. Mm-hmm. They're getting serious about having kids much later.
Yeah.
And they were more inclined to have a dog than to have a long-term relationship and live together with someone. Yeah. It's interesting because even when I was growing up, that is not the case. Most of my friends dated, we were serious, in our mid-20s.
Yeah.
And I know I got married at 24, and most of my friends were married in the mid-20s.
I was 26.
Yeah. I think even one of them, he was probably about 22, went to law school, and he's got 5 kids, and they're still married together, together today. So it's different how fast that changed.
It did.
I think they just saw divorce, they saw the pain, and they just didn't want to go through it. And they're like, well, I'll just not do any of those things. And then we'll wait until later when it feels right. The guy I do my podcast with, he's 29, and he does not have an inkling to get married or serious about even being in a relationship. He's just, I'm like, you're 29.
Yeah.
I could not relate to that. I thought at 21, 22, I'm like,
part of me kind of respects that they're independent enough that they think that way. It's a little different view.
Well, I tease him because we talk about relationship stuff all the time, and I give him a lot of pushback on the way he thinks about it. So it's fun to kind of talk through it. Yeah. And most of them don't even think about it.
Yeah.
It's not even really something they think about or dwell on or even consider.
Yeah.
All right. Who are your partners in real estate?
Like individuals?
It could be. So you connected with us. I think we talked a little bit about that. Yeah. You connected with us, Gina,
through EXP Realty.
So real estate agents is probably your primary, and that's how you get into people looking at buying a home, which triggers an insurance event.
That and the lenders. The lenders are really important. The realtors, I would say this: the realtors have the deep relationships with the. Not as many realtors feel as comfortable sometimes referring in an insurance agent as much as a lender. A lender is more transaction oriented. They got to get this transaction done. They know the loan to the debt ratios and everything, and they know the timetables, the closing date. And so they're a strong partner, but also the realtors. So
they're more transactional, less relationship for sure. It's interesting. Like if they both said do this, I think the buyer would probably respond to the realtor faster.
Absolutely.
It's interesting to see it that way. And because I don't really think of it the way you said it, but that does make...
The realtor's been in the car with them, driving around. They get to know each other. They kind of broke some bread together.
Even the one because you ended up quoting one and you ended up having one done successfully for me. The lender also provided one, and you moved faster and probably, I'm sure, my influence. And it's funny because I'm not the realtor for them, but I'm invested in this business.
Okay.
I'm invested in the home with them in a way. So I want to make sure that we get this taken care of, we get it refinanced, and they can clear off.
Well, like I said earlier, since I'm not doing service,
but they went my way versus the lender way, is what I was saying.
Oh, they did. Okay,
yeah. That's the kind of point I was making.
Okay, yeah. But I when these leads come in from a realtor or a lender, it's all hands on deck.
Yeah, that's good. What value do you add to the home buyers buying right now?
One, since I've bought several different houses and been in several markets, I try to bring a little wisdom about what's going on. And I try to tell them what's, the long run advantage. One of the gentlemen I do work with in realtor, James Cunin, he's with Ollie Altman. And, he was talking about just 2 years ago, I want to say DFW had like a 57% growth rate. It was incredible in 1 year. It was just crazy. So, in the long run, it's amazing what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen with the Texas economy. The people are here from overseas, from California. I got a little time with an Exxon executive, and he told us a really interesting thing. And he said, when they looked at all the countries in the world and all areas of the world, as America, the world transitioned to more sustainable energy, Texas is best positioned of any place in the world. Oil, gas,
we have it all.
Ample land, and we have solar, and we have wind. So Texas is not just great now. Texas is going to be great forever. This is the best long-term investment you can have in America and probably the world.
And then after that is succession. What are they? Succeeding? Is that what they're talking about, Texas? What do we need the rest of the world for?
That's another topic. Yeah.
Which is absolutely ludicrous.
I kind of like being with America.
Yeah. I think I like the benefits of being with the U.S.